order at 5 o'clock on, what is today, February 2nd. Thank you, February 2nd, 2023. We have minutes in front of us. I believe you all have had the chance to read through the minutes. If you have not, please do so. While we are doing that, if you plan to speak this evening at all, if you can sign in at the podium, please. If you don't plan to speak, you don't have to. But if you do, please sign in for us, if you will.
It doesn't hurt to. It's not like we're gonna be like.
Yeah, your name's
once
not
they're
punished.
in email, it's like if I'm really up to it, I already have your email. It's too late now. You're getting spam. For the mics, make sure that the light is green. Jay will automatically adjust the volume as needed, but it's easier just to turn them on, leave them on all the time, and then we'll just adjust them as required.
So Jay can hear my big mouth? Is that what
Correct.
it is? Jay, you heard that, right?
Mine, against all these mics. I'll just project.
All right, and while everybody's signing in, if you've had a chance to read the minutes, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 5th, 2023 minutes.
Janet makes the motion. I'll need a second.
Second.
Sonia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries. We do have a proposed application this evening, S-2023-03. Dustin Spillman will be proposed, I'm assuming, until the next meeting. Is that correct?
Postponed.
Postponed.
All
What
of
did I
these
say?
are technically proposals.
Where am I
Or
at?
now I got it all set, proposals. Everything's a proposal. This one is postponed.
Okay.
That is correct.
Postponed,
You
proposed.
should be in for that one.
Something's going on with that one. All right, so that one is postponed. So we will move on to the next one, application -S-2023-04. Jillian and Francis Vallis with Pine Knoll Farms requesting a conditional use permit for a secondary residence. Elise, whenever
Mr.
you
Chair,
are.
how about an oath right quick?
Yeah, you may want to do that. All right, Charlie, that sounds good.
As long as
If-
I keep my distance.
Yes, keep your distance. If you are planning to speak or if you have signed that, if you will stand and raise your right hand for me, please.
Sorry.
You
Multitasking.
swear or affirm the signature to make the statement to be the truth to the best of your information and belief.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, I missed one meeting and I'm rusty as can be. Yeah. All right. All right, Elise, you are up.
Move all my stuff out of the way first. Our first application is a conditional use permit for a secondary residence in order to construct an above barn apartment studio located at the property address 4901 Ironworks Road. Oh my God, I hate numbers. Direct and arterial access is off of Ironworks Road. It's a state maintained route. It's located south of Frankfurt Road, but north of the Hidden Creek Estates subdivision. It is a 28.14 some acre parcel, zoned A1. Staff recommends approval of the request. This is an aerial of the property here. It's a farm with some horses and other farm-related activities, such as farming. This is information submitted by the applicant. There's one previous Board of Adjustment application on file for the project site wherein an accessory structure was constructed with a variance from 50 feet to 37 feet. Section 4.12, subsection L of the zoning ordinance lists secondary residences on the same tract for related family members or farm workers as a conditional use in the A1. Given the size of the property, it would be able to support it in our density standard of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres of property. For these types of projects, we recommend that a secondary dwelling be at least 100 feet from existing structures so as to make any subsequent subdivision of the property not require variance, as well as at least 50 feet from the property line as to not require variance in order to construct the residence. Given that there's already an approved variance and that this would be applied to that same structure, or the use permit would be executed in that same structure, staff recommends that, or has waived that requirement for the 50-foot between the the residence and the property line. And it's reflected in the condition of approval, specifically condition number 6. This is another item submitted by the applicant. This is just showing where the new the new apartment will be. It'll be located on top of that existing barn, highlighted in yellow, shown with the graphic and the picture that's submitted with the staff packet. So it has the previously approved variance, and it would not believe to be negatively impact the public health, safety, nor welfare. It meets our density requirements. It has existing facilities. It's not going to really do anything crazy like that. And it believes it fits with the character of the surrounding. And it does meet the density, the property itself does meet the density requirements if it is approved, which, come on, staff does recommend approval of the conditional use permit subject to the 6 conditions on the board. First 3 are those we see with both for all conditional use permits, so that it becomes null and void upon transfer. They have to agree with all or abide by all the regulations of federal, state, and locals. They deal with all the ordinances and regulations our office deals with. If they have any changes, they report back to the Board of Adjustment and for any changes specifically with the approved conditions. Staff always recommends and requires applicants receive an address for the dwelling from our office free of cost. You just show up, ask nicely, fill out a form, and they tend to assign an address. It makes it a little bit easier should subsequently down the line it gets subdivided. Even if it doesn't, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. And then the applicant shall build it at least 100 feet or so from the current residence to eliminate the need for a variance. If it ends up being that the properties are close to one another, we can obviously kind of discuss further tonight. But to staff's understanding, the existing residence is not within 100 feet of the property, so it has instituted, or it's recommended including this condition of approval. And I've heard nothing from any adjoining property owners for this property nor the other 2 that are on the agenda for tonight. Just beat that one right now.
She's answering your question before you ask.
Janet always does it. Janet asked me over the phone, not just be like, so we got anything? I was like, no.
All right, any questions for Elise? All right, thank you, Elise. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume you're the applicant. Anything you would like to tell us other than that?
No, I mean, I think it's going to be built within the existing structure, so it's not really changing anything from the ground. There'll be dormers in the top, but the structure itself must stay the same.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with your property. You're close to being my neighbor. Whether
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm on Swords Road, so I back up to the farm.
Oh, okay.
And it's a beautiful property, so I
Thank you.
understand where you're at. Any other questions or anything? All right, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the conditional use permit for 4901 Ironworks Road, subject to the 6 conditions recommended by staff.
Rachel makes the motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Janet seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all approve by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries. Thank you.
It's nice to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
Whereabouts is it?
We're on the other end of Swords Road. We're the farm on the other end of Swords Road. So if you turn left from your house on
Oh, you're right
Swords,
on that corner?
yeah, we're down on the corner. That's us.
You're welcome to stay for the remainders. Otherwise, I will be sending a letter to all applicants with the results for the meeting tomorrow morning, and then you can take that to whichever parties you need to consult with and go forward with. So obviously, you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. I'm not holding you.
I probably will leave.
That's smart. I always like to give it because
Can we
people
go
are
with
like,
you?
do you mind? They like try to leave really quietly. It's like, just go. I don't care. Like, I'll be sad, but I also don't mind. I have them here. They're a captive audience, so they close the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next application is S-2023-05. Elise?
Thank you. This is also a conditional use permit for a secondary residence, specifically for the construction of an in-laws cottage located at 1669 Miners Branch Road. It's an A1 zone parcel measuring 82.65 acres with direct and arterial access off of Miners Branch Road. Apologies on the staff report. It does say nearest arterial being Ironworks. That is not the circumstances. There is a much closer arterial. And it also was reflected on this, and I'm so sorry I messed up the numbers on this one as well. I thought I changed them, but the changes did not take effect. Every meeting's got to have something a little bit spicy. That's just the like backwards. Anyway, the information in the staff report is correct. The information on the slide is incorrect for general reference. This is an aerial shot of the property here. It's in the northern portion of the county, and they have no previous requests for a Board of Adjustment or Board of Adjustment application affiliated. Speaking as it's a pretty large property, I also zoomed in here and noted where the residences are based off of Google imagery. Unfortunately, our imagery for the PVA system are a bit dated, so I put in these nice squares that our lovely applicant lives within, hopefully at least relatively close to where it should be.
No, you put those in the floodplain.
Oh, well, oops, my bad, I'm so sorry. The homes are not underwater, but they're generally, the application information that I did include, specifically the 11 by 17 does show a better location of the property. I apologize, I tried to scale it as best I could, but they did not line up, apparently, obviously. So we'll go back to the big one, so we don't have to think about how I goofed that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, the green dot, that's where we're shooting for. They're looking to construct an in-laws cottage. The secondary dwelling would meet the requirements of the ordinance, specifically related to setbacks, density requirements, and distance between dwellings. Given that this is a much larger parcel and it appears to be 50 feet from the property line, staff has just re-added that additional comment to the condition. Well, it's actually not added, but it would be generally applied for this one, and I don't think that they'd have an issue with it. So we say that they need to be at least 100 feet from existing structures to make any subsequent subdivision not require variance. After review, staff believes that it would not alter the character of the general vicinity, nor adversely impact public health, safety, or welfare. And again, it does satisfy our density requirements, which, look at that, don't look at that slide, don't look at that. Which are my findings here, also listed in the staff report. Staff recommends, come on. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit subject to the same 6 conditions stated in the previous application. I'm just gonna note that they should get an address. Again, it's free. Stop by the office, give them a call. They work with you. Jay's in there, kind of locked in, but he'll help you out. He'll get you connected, and then just build 100 feet between the residences so as to not require variance in the future. Besides that, again, no comments from neighbors. Nobody minded. Or at least no one voiced that they minded.
Okay.
Let's clarify.
Any questions for Elise? All right. We're going to assume you're the applicant now. You're not building in the floodplain, correct? Correct. All right. That'll be the first thing. Anything you would like to add to that? Okay. All right. Any questions from any of the board members? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve application S 2023-05, conditional use permit for secondary residence, Miners Ranch Road, subject to the staff recommendations.
I will second that. Sonia made the motion. Charlie, I seconded the motion. Any questions or comments? All right. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All opposed by the same? There are none. Motion carries. Thank you. As stated, you can always stay for more punishment with us if you would like, but
Oh, that's so mean.
This is my job.
I chose this life.
all right. Application S-2023-06. Elise?
Thank you. This is our variance request for the evening. I don't know why I sounded like that's something. It's like something new. It's what we usually see. This is a variance to the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 20 feet for construction of an accessory structure located at 1279 Cedar Road. It's an A1 zone parcel surrounded by A1 zone parcels. In the PVA identifies it as the Cedar Grove Estates. I didn't know it had a name, but PVA said it was. So I said that's cool. I like that they called it a name. Makes it a little bit easier when we're referencing plats and other things. With direct and arterial access to Cedar Road, it has as shown in the staff report, and I believe I have a photo of it, it has a pretty long shared driveway per se, which accesses the church and 3 residential lots. So this is one of those lots on the back end. It is a 5-acre parcel. Staff recommends denial, I'm sorry, I should correct that one. We're getting there. Staff recommends denial, and we'll go into it a little bit further. Staff believes that it doesn't meet the findings requirement of KRS 100.243. We'll move on. This is an aerial shot of the property here. This is, again, 2019 imagery, so the applicant has stated that they recently added a pool to the property, which is not depicted here. However, I did find a photo of it on Google Maps. I was much better at lining up the picture with this, and so I was able to better extrapolate where the location of that pool is for information purposes. That is included in the staff packet, as well as I believe I have it on the slide. Oh, goodness, I hit it too far. So I don't have a slide on it because it's a lot of text and everyone kind of generally knows the rules. But when we're looking at variance requests, we refer to KRS 100.243, which are findings requirements, which states that before any variance is granted, the board must find that the granting of the variance will not adversely impact the public health, safety, or welfare, nor alter the essential character of the general vicinity, and will not cause hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow for an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of zoning regulations. In meeting these findings, the board shall consider whether the requested variance arises from special circumstances that do not generally apply to land in the general vicinity or the same zone, that the strict application of the provisions of regulation would deprive the applicant of a reasonable use of land or create an unnecessary hardship upon the applicant, and that the circumstances are a result of the actions of the applicant taken subsequent to the adoption of the zoning regulations from relief is sought, and the board shall deny any request for variance arising from circumstances that are a result of willful violations of the zoning regulation by the applicant subsequent to the adoption of zoning regulations from which relief is now being sought. So it's a lot of words I got through. So the applicant is requesting a variance to the rear property line, which on this graphic is the top. I roughly measured the 50-foot setback line that this was platted with when it was platted in '89, and included the bright green lines, which are the topography at, I believe it's 2-foot intervals, but I can stand to be corrected on that one. I believe they might be 5-foot intervals. Nevertheless, the applicant in their application has stated that the variance for the construction of the structure is a result of topographical variation through the property and drainage from the hills to the rear of the property or the north. And the location selected per the application is the flat top of the hill, but would not interfere with the residence nor the above ground pool, and then kind of allow the drainage to continue down. I've highlighted the area in kind of at that hilltop area, and then it all slopes from that brighter blue point. I've also extrapolated roughly where that pool is located based off of Google Map imagery. I may stand to be corrected again. Obviously, I put someone's home in the floodplain, so I can stand to be corrected, and probably at times need to be. Anyway, that area in blue outside of the rear build line 50-foot setback area is approximately just over a quarter of an acre, which staff believes is a sufficient width or sufficient height and area and space. I'm really just struggling with words right now. Sufficient area to fit the structure without requiring a variance. And the rolling hills, we understand topography. We live in the area. We're very familiar with the range and things, and staff believes that the topography is not enough variation to kind of require it, given that, again, that flatter area and then the sloping down. So these are our findings here. While it is the minimum lot size for the zoning district, there are many flat areas where construction is feasible without requiring a variance. It's part of the Cedar Grove Estate subdivision, and staff believes that it does not meet the findings requirement of KRS 100.243, specifically that the requested variance arises from special circumstances which do not apply to the land in the general vicinity. And staff recommends, denial of the variance request However, if the board approves the application, staff is included in the staff report and on the screen above the 3 conditions of approval that staff would recommend applying to this application. The first of which is that they are subject to all regulations of the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, that they comply with all other federal, state, and local regulations, and that they obtain a building permit from building inspection prior to any construction on the property. Staff has received no comments from any adjoining property owners on this one.
Okay. Any questions for Elise?
We'll take that.
Let me make sure, Liz, I've got this in my mind right. I went out to look at this property.
Mhm.
Now, this, where he wants to build this, is to the right of the pool.
It is. It's the hammerhead. What I'm trying to do, I've actually got photos trying to show how the building will lay out. If I can present them to the board, I don't.
Is it where you dug? I mean, I went out there and took pictures.
Yeah, I had dug and.
See, it's to the right of the driveway.
Yeah, it's basically trying to center the 2 garage doors onto the hammerhead. And I'm trying to center the 2 garage doors onto the hammerhead, and to be able to build have the garage built, to also allow for basically a driveway to the front of it to be able to access where I'm not driving over grass. So allowing for the 2-car garage driveway, and then for it to be able to be down and connect into the hammerhead to be able to make it where it matches with the existing curvatures in the driveways that's existing.
But you're asking for a variance in the rear.
Correct, I'm
So
trying.
what's that got to do with the sides, centering doors?
To be able to allow enough space to be able to connect the hammerhead with the driveway and the building, to give myself enough space on it. The shop is 24 by 40, but per the specs, I needed to have a pad of 26 by 42. So I took a measurement, the rough measurement from my property line to the end of the hammerhead is 100 feet, basically 100 and a half feet from there. So if I was to go to the 50-foot variant, or the property line, or the
Setback.
the setback, sorry.
They bring you 10
so-
foot to the end of the
Yeah,
driveway.
so if I do that, I add for the pad, and then add for the garage, or the actual parking spaces in front of the garage. What I'm showing just from research, I would need approximately, I have a Toyota Tundra True Max, so it's the biggest Toyota that they sell. So the recommendation that I found for parking spaces for something like that, where I'm not having to park on grass, is 24 feet plus approximately 5 feet for walk-around space around it. And then I would figure it's going to take just a little bit of a V-down to be able to cut back and connect into the hammerhead on it, because the hammerhead's actually a little bit short. You drive into every time you try to back out of it, you actually get into the grass there. So that's where we're also trying to eliminate.
So to understand your point here, at least what you're saying is, if he wants to put it there, I can see some issues, but he has the 5 acres, so it can go somewhere else, is what you're saying.
That's where I'm coming from, and that's kind of what,
To meet the requirements.
yeah,
Our
is that,
options.
it's pretty much,
Yeah.
it seems that there's enough usable property outside of the area designated for the setbacks that a variance is not required. I mean, again, if they can demonstrate that a variance is required because the information and the findings I have are incorrect, then we can obviously reconsider it, but at least based off of staff review, again, there seems to be sufficient space outside of the building setback area, and a variance is not required.
What's your size of your building?
It's a 24 by 40, so approximately 960 square feet.
40 to the rear.
It's actually going sideways, so that would be coming in, so it would be, it's 24, like if you come off the hammerhead, it'd be 24 deep going back to the back property line. It's actually gonna be setting, where it mirrors the house sits square, so I'm mirroring the house and doing enough of a
So understand why you want to put it there, especially with the hammerhead being the way it is.
Correct, and that's the hill to the right, while that looks flat on the document, if you see the photos, it's actually fairly steep.
Shall we go back?
Flatter than mine.
Please.
Yeah, let's see, not really.
I think that might have to be moved though if he goes there.
The green lines
That's way
of
off.
5-foot increments,
That's true.
just for general reference.
Okay, so you can,
The green lines for the
Oh,
topography are 5-foot increments. It's not an urban level scale, which is usually 2-foot increments.
So they are 5s.
What's the distance of which all of those things, those 5-foot increments go? I mean, is that spread over a mile, is it spread over,
I mean, it's-
20 feet? Because if that's over 50 feet, say, that's quite steep. If
Yeah.
it's over half a mile, it's not steep. at all.
I'm wondering from the driveway to the first green line, how far that is. That's my question is,
The width of the property going from south to north at like the driveway start, like where the, I'm using the reference plat, but kind of starting here
yeah,
is 328 feet
That's the width of it.
from this point north.
Uh-huh.
From this portion along the rearmost portion of the property line, that is
so 320 feet.
like 680 feet roughly from that to that, at least based off of the plat filed in
So that's a
89.
drop of 65 feet.
It looked pretty flat when I was sitting in the driveway. I mean,
Those measurements indicate it's relative. I mean, not flat, obviously, but it's not the kind of steepness we look for in these kinds of applications. Especially when you compare that to what, we looked at and not approved and
Summer Ridge,
Mallard Point and
Summer Ridge and Mountain
Summer
Point.
Ridge, West Woods or whatever it
Yeah.
is. I mean, yeah, those things.
I was just thinking it kind of looked like preference versus necessity, you know?
Yeah.
So what keeps you from building it on the right side of the driveway?
It just, it's that extra added expense. I mean,
We have to
because I'm
take it,
gonna have to have dirt hauled in to be able to level things out. My personal experience of when you haul in the dirt like that, your sides are always gonna crack. I mean, historically, just from being around, that's what I've always seen is when you've had to haul dirt back in to backfill and compact, it never compacts well enough to keep from having slab crackage.
I understand compaction and concrete, but the question we have to decide is what necessitates us to put it back on that end, other than expense, because the expense belongs to you, and I don't mean that in a bad way, right? But it's your property, so the expense belongs to you. From a
Right.
board standpoint, we have to make sure that we justify putting it somewhere else. There's a main reason, and expense can't be one of those, because that's not on us or the county, that would be on you. And we're not trying to be adversarial, we just have to have some reason not to do that.
Charlie, what's your opinion on this?
Well, ordinarily, I mean, as the statute reads, there has to be some sort of condition that's relatively unique to this property. Well, I don't think that is. I mean, that's pretty much the contour of the whole development, and for that matter, much of the county. But it's got to be unique to that, and the uniqueness is of such severity that reasonable use according to the basic setback requirements and so on is pretty much precluded. Not just, 10% more expensive, and I'm just guessing at percentages, I don't know. But if he can't have a garage unless we give him one, bingo. If he can, but it's gonna be more expensive, well, obviously, if it's prohibitive, then that's probably good enough. But if it's just simply, it's gonna add 10 or so percent, that's generally, no, that's not gonna do it. It's gotta be something that's really precludes otherwise reasonable use of this property to the same degree everybody else in that area can use their property. And since this is a characteristic over the whole place, that just doesn't seem real likely. I mean, there are some places in the county where, it is so bad
questions? It's not our desire to add any more cost to you by any means, but we do have to look at all the surroundings, and quite frankly, we've seen a lot worse conditions than the elevation here. So I'm going to make the motion that we deny application S-2023-06 based upon the staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Sonia seconds the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor by saying aye. All opposed by the same sign. Are none, motion carries. Thank you, sorry.
Wish it were otherwise.
Yeah.
All right, Elise, anything else?
Sent your little continuing education stuff in the mail. We try to keep pretty detailed records. Obviously, if there's courses, seminars, other items, Darren, I know you mentioned you took some courses that may be applicable. If you can send either like a syllabus or just a name or some type of thing that says this, and if it fits pretty closely to what the state outlines as items that can be considered as creditable, so transportation, housing, growth management, land use, agriculture, rural stuff, whatever kind of thing that if maybe you just have never counted it before and you've done it within that 2-year window, that it's kind of wherever you're sitting in your term, we can count it appropriately. If obviously it's not, I mean, we can triple check it, we can get second opinions, but we always like to have people in good standing so that if something comes up, everybody's in good standing in accordance with the regulations set forth by state statutes. Besides that, I don't really have anything else that I can think of. Do you guys have any other items or other things that you need us to know?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Chair? We've got an issue coming up now that apparently may be moot. This is in the other board, the city board. May be moot since it seems like the person that appealed our decision sold the damn property. And they
After
no
all
longer
this
have standing,
time.
and so I've just spent 7 hours working on things for nothing. But as I told her, it was that fine. Anyway, but it's about a conditional use permit, and the judge, with all due respect, screwed up and tried to use prior decisions as precedent for what we should have done in this one, and that's not the law in Kentucky. So that's what I was doing, put together a motion to have her vacate what she just did because it was not correct. At least now I don't get to piss off the judge, so that's probably.
You get in good standing with
Anyway, but what I'm suggesting is, each time we have, be it a conditional use or a variance, you know, we have a couple of questions and I'll give a couple answers, but we really don't talk about the whole thing. And not necessarily setting a special date, but if maybe on a month where we have a fairly light agenda like this one, if we could take, say, 30 minutes and just have a session on, say, conditional uses, and then the following month maybe 30 minutes, and then you get an hour's worth of training. Plus we get something where we actually, it's question and it's answers back and forth, and it probably means a whole lot more to us than just isolated questions when a particular thing comes up.
I think over the years, I have requested some training in school and nothing ever came.
I like the suggestion. I'm ignoring Janet at this point.
Yeah, find her out of order, do something, come on.
I like the suggestion.
Can we roll that toward next
Yeah.
time if we've already completed ours this time?
Well, we can do conditional use permits. I have no issue with that. We can also do recent text amendments for any ordinance changes or other items that may be coming up. If there's anything else in particular that you find interesting or you're like, I want to know about this, let me know. Because like, there's a lot of stuff in planning. And so there's a lot of items. And once we kind of run through conditional uses, it kind of just sits on a weird spot. This month, I thought there was going to be something else, so I didn't have anything prepared. I can try to ad-lib something, but I don't think it's going to go well. But we can kind of move forward, maybe include some just kind of board 101 trainings. I know we have done those in the past when I was looking at training records for all the boards, where it's either a quick session on just state statutes or House bill requirements or whatever stuff's going on. I can see what other things we've used and maybe.
I need 15 minutes, Charlie, to finish mine. Give me a 15 quick discussion and I'm ready to go.
I think
Good for 2 years, but
if we know, 2 weeks into the month, that it's going to be a light month.
yeah, I'll look into that and
If you'll
keep
see,
it tagged.
let us know, hey, there's only 2 or whatever on there, then I think that's a good.
Plus I can then ship you out some material, not ridiculous, although I'm usually ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then we would have something, a little bit more specific to discuss.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Charlie, for once, I agree with you.
We'll do like other things besides just like home stuff, but like
Okay.
occupational things and et cetera, we can move forward. If there's anything else that comes up.
What does the agenda look like next month? Do you have any idea?
I don't have anything right now, but I know Spillman's gonna come back for Saban. To my understanding from email correspondence with the applicant, he's found an agreeable circumstances with the developer, the HOA, and himself to pursue this further. They have not removed the request or withdrawn the request for the variance, but they have found an agreeable, at least to my understanding, an agreeable circumstance. That
I
I'm
know
hoping
him
gets
fairly
around.
well, and it would shock me if he couldn't come through with something.
He gave me a
He's
death
very
glare
on it.
when I
He's
looked at his property
unfortunately-
Yesterday, he just come out the road, stared at me.
He's
He's
inherited.
unfortunately on rotation right now,
I
so
was
he's
gonna say-
unable to, he requested postponement because he's firefighter stuff is for 24 hour,
Spillman.
48
So when I come back
float
around, he
charts,
stood
I think,
looked
in
at me and I thought, sorry, I said,
Lexington, so he's unable to be here tonight, which is why we
"That's
didn't
what
hit
you
it.
gotta do."
But I'll keep an eye on things, and then
He's big dog.
if one board does something and there's a little bit less on the city board, we might have a city one, and you guys can come and sit in for city conversations.
Charlie, stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah, don't die. Don't be crazy.
Charlie, I haven't adjourned the meeting yet.
And I'm not leaving yet. But, you know, I like to stay prepared. But the little girl who was diagnosed is my granddaughter, and she was in my lap and all during church Sunday.
Gross.
So,
Children.
and I mean, she's tested positive at the doctor's office, not just the little things. I feel perfectly fine. I tested at home and nothing, so.
Did you get her COVID? You had COVID.
Maybe that's it. I was coming down.
You just
I didn't
knocked
think
your kid
about
out.
Hey, while we're thinking about it,
What'd you
just
get?
very, very quickly, and I know Janet has to go, but the gentleman that we proposed or that we allowed to have a conditional use permit on the landscaping business out on 460, it looks great.
Oh, it does.
He
I
is,
have
He's
passed
been
that
reading
all the
Lumber
time.
Table.
his,
Yeah.
development plan permit has been submitted, so he is going through that process. If you guys wanna learn more, stop by the office.
And he was talking to the neighbors out there, they looked like they
Yeah.
were building
Yeah.
a relationship, I think.
The
that
neighbors
was-
have,
Yeah.
the neighbors have a couple concerns on just burning practices, which is something that we didn't apply a condition for. So I requested that if anything comes up, for them to take a picture, a video, and if there's issues where it may be in violation, you may be hearing more about it. But at least right now, and what I've seen from his development plan proposal, it is a very nice.
I actually stopped by and talked to him the other day. I just pulled in, and he said, "I'm not doing anything wrong, am I?"
He's like,
Wrong
he's like-
party, that's not me. That's actually, I was just telling you, it
I
looks
don't
good.
I have the short straw job, we have the short straw job,
Yeah.
but, they'll.
What's the first thing he said that night was, can I talk to those people? Like, yeah, you
Yeah,
go
please
talk to
do.
those people.
Have an
We
amicable
encourage you to go
relationship with
talk to
your
those people, yeah, so,
Yeah, please talk to them before you get here.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, here you go. All right, meeting adjourned, 5:40, I'm done.
That's fair.
Okay.
See you all.
Bye.
Glad you got this.